Oh, hello. Welcome to a extra thick capsule. That's right. Capsule. This is a small section of my office hours live stream that I do on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, on twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPub live. Come join us live and join chat. You see YouTube too, but I screwed up. So YouTube is there, but I stream on both platforms. We're talking about the monthly report. And ladies, gentlemen, all of you wonderful citizens out there and pilots out there, this is a big one. Welcome to the end of the drought. Likely from now until November, we're going to be getting some not only big monthly reports, but big releases. Typically, this is when things ramp up over the year. So, with that being said, let's jump into the August 2025 monthly report. From Ship Showdown 2955 to Alpha 43 Dark Territory, August was packed with action and adventure. Read on for all the details of what was done to finalize last month's content, alongside ongoing progress on the wealth of new vehicles, locations, missions, and features coming in the near and not so near future. AI content. AI content continued to progress with several ongoing initiatives, including refactoring one of the NPC's archetypes important to landing zone infrastructure. When complete, it will provide additional character to the various landing zones around the verse. AI content are closely working with core gameplay to ensure that there are contingencies in case the system fails while live. Development continued on a new set of voice packs to refine what was learned from the dynamic conversations added throughout the year. The team took a look into developing new behavior types and re-examined existing behaviors to look for improvements. Finally, they looked into upcoming environments to make sure they're properly set up for AI populations. AI features. The AI features team began the month by improving NPC weapon overheating, a feature initially developed for Squadron 42. You'll see this a lot, that a lot of the content, and this is one of the reasons why I often tell people who get really mad about Squadron 42 existing, like, oh, well, Squadron is sucking up all the resources. They are sucking up some of the resources when it comes to things like testing and such, but most of the resources that go into Squadron are coming to Star Citizen, if not have come in or will be coming in the near future. So this is an example where they develop something for a Squadron and then it gets ported to Star Citizen. It just usually takes time because Squadron doesn't have server meshing, or online features. So they have to build those into those features to make sure they work. Alongside this, a new firing validator was also introduced for charged weapons. The logic for trigger control was reworked and various issues were fixed. A pre-firing stage was also added for NPCs using weapons. As previously, they would only use charged weapons while in cover. A fix was also submitted to tackle the issue preventing NPCs from shooting after their first trigger pull. Various behavioral combat improvements were made, including the implementation of bug fixing of reactions to weak spot destruction and distortion damage. The team are also improving the overall experience for the Copium, starting with the fixes to stabilize the flee behavior. Communication channel improvements were then implemented to allow for a better coordination of NPC groups with leaders. The devs also added improvements to automatically calculate when an NPC is alone or not to better filter what they can say and when. A bug was fixed for NPCs executing audio triggers when dead. This is not yet available in the PU builds, but will be integrated soon. And I do hope that CIG sort of bucks the trend. I know it's easy to do because it allows for an audio trigger so you can hear, but I really don't like the, someone there? Oh, must have been the wind. Kind of like stealth mechanic stuff. Like, you don't have to go, someone there. You could say something like, stop, I see you. Or something like that to try to scare players. But maybe small guttural noises or what? But not like full on it must have been the wind kind of thing. It's silly and immersion breaking, and I feel like it would also add a little level of danger if you added that, if you took it away so that players would have to see the approach if you're trying to do stealth. All right, AI tech. The AI tech team progressed with cross-navigation volume pathfinding. Previously, this used a heuristic approach to predict which navigation volumes would be used for pathfinding, followed by multiple pathing steps, with one for each navigation volume. However, they now use single pathfinder step through all navigation volumes to guarantee the shortest path. Navigation links will be temporarily disabled after failed use to prevent NPCs from repeatedly trying to use them, which will result in being stuck. General improvements to ship AI behaviors were made, including when AI is within the defend area, but the target falls outside of it. In this case, the AI will actively find a position in range to target them. The team also polished the punish idle animation. Instead of strategically circling the target, the AI will perform more maneuvers, particularly when targeted. In addition, bug fixes were done for NPCs flying in formations and following at a distance, while detailed investigations were made into current behaviors of AI ship combat. Following this, the team improved ship AI combat tactic commitments for the strafer and jouster behaviors. For turrets, a vision adapter specialized for unmanned turrets was added, which allows for vision perception to be enabled for security systems. For the usable builder, several improvements were made. For example, the helper geocode was changed to fix collision issues. The team also made the usable group coordinator, UGC, not reset when none was selected at the end condition. Usable data was added for links via the UGC editor. Additional fixes were made to some debug GUI issues, and the string input was changed to a drop-down list of tags. Finally, the devs implemented a way to load layouts in the usable builder. Dedicated work began on voxel-based 3D Pathfinder, starting with preliminary refactoring for the path follower that will support both the simple and new Pathfinder. On the tech side, bug fixing was done for StarScript to ensure developers can use the tool as fruitfully as possible. The team also optimized subsumption initiative of AI actors and made further improvements to scripted control for flow graph, such as added functionality to mark global function availability. So when we see they can use unmanned turrets, that basically means that you can see out of the unmanned turret. Before this, AIs couldn't see out of that turret, but now they can actually notice out of that turret, which is interesting. AI Game Intelligence Development Division. Now, it's important to note that this is not AI in the sense of like LLMs. What they're talking about is classic GOF AI, good old-fashioned AI. This is just them developing NPCs and NPC behaviors and such like that. In August, the Game Intelligence Development Team continued to work with the Density Profiler, developing the new IMGUI control. They also improved the visuals of the Mission System version 2 UI prototype and outlined the properties design. In pursuit of the team's goals of unifying the overall scripting tool language, they also began working on the design of the new entity scripting UX. Game Intelligence Development also continued to fix some small bugs and worked on features requested and suggested by the game designers to improve StarScript. Animation. Throughout August, Animation worked on improvements to the Copium, as well as a new creature, which we saw earlier because of leaks. They also created assets for the upcoming Medgel dispenser and made a pass on death reactions to ensure they appear as expected. Facial animation worked alongside mocap and narrative to capture additional content for releases coming soon and into early next year. They also worked through previously captured dialogue that will soon be available in-game, including for brand new mission givers and additional lines for Amelia Boyd. Amelia Boyd. I don't know who that mission giver is. Chat, do you know? It sounds familiar, but I don't know what that is. Huh. Oh, I think that's for the Frontier Fighters? Maybe? In addition, they continue to support the narrative team with SSN Newsflash reports. The Slicer's leader. Okay, yeah. So, the leader from the Frontier Fighters. Yeah. Newsflash reports that will be given visible in-game during timed events. So the Frontier Fighters are coming back, y'all. Art characters. Also, yeah, we've actually heard some leaks of the audio for SSN Newsflash. Art characters. Last month, the character art team progressed with the armor for the new gang and supported requests for subscriber flare items and CitizenCon Direct. They also continued to work on variants for game boards and store items. The concept art team started the exploration phase for new heavy armor. Art ships. UK, this is why you're here. Almost certainly, I have absolutely clickbaited you to coming here, so you're welcome. In the UK, 3 unannounced ships progressed through August. All are currently in various stages with the gray box phase. One is approaching its final review. One is receiving improvements to component accessibility, and the other recently entered following its white box gate. So that means these 3 are likely not coming till the end of the year at the earliest, because it still has to go through its LOD 0 phase and then the final art phase. For announced ships, the Anvil Paladin progressed into LOD 0 stage. Having had feedback from the gray box gate review action, the exterior, which was slightly behind the interior, now has caught up, allowing for further refinement between the two. This is almost certainly the Paladin. It could be the Perseus, but I think this is the Paladin. That looks very Drake. Anvil. That looks very Anvil. And we saw that it was going through its review gate for LOD 0 and has now entered into LOD 0 as of last month. So LOD 0 probably release in November. So September, then getting the final art sometime in October, maybe. Kruger L-21 Wolf was released, with the team excited to see the reception on the new ship. They also continued to bug fix issues found during the release, such as a glass shader being excessively worn, alongside implementing the component bays. The Drake Ironclad and Ironclad Assault progressed towards their white box reviews, with the team finalizing the asset kit that will be used across this and other Drake ships. They're not even out of white box, chat. There's no way the Ironclad is coming this year. Next year, but not this year. It'll probably release LOD 0 towards the end of the year, but it's not coming this year, y'all. I thought it was, and then the fact that it's just now in white box, it's like, ooh, yeah, no. This is a big one. Work on the RSI Aurora and Aegis Hammerhead kicked off to bring them up to current standards, focusing first on their cockpit and dashboard views, as well as physicalizing components. So we're getting the Aurora overhaul and a Hammerhead overhaul. That's surprising. My hope is that the Hammerhead gets its little middle section filled in, possibly, but we'll see. This is the other big one. The Hull B entered pre-production following the approval of its updated concept. So the Hull B, which I had not anywhere in my bingo list even being worked on, is going into pre-production. So that's not to white box yet, but it's entering into getting of the phase of being built after its new concept is done. It'll be interesting to see what the Hull B looks like. Because originally the Hull B was supposed to be the Hull A, but slightly bigger and could land. And they had it was sort of like an X pattern rather than a cross pattern in terms of how you load things. And then it would have really long legs to support it. But since then, it just clearly doesn't work. And it's still intended to land fully loaded. So the theories have been that it's going to be a 3-panel and 3-panel. So 1, 2, 3 on the outside, and then another 1, 2, 3, so like kind of just like an extended spindle for Hull A. But effectively, it's still a Hull A. It's the spindle that has to be changed. In North America, the RSI Apollo Medevac and Triage continued to be prepared for release, with testing and bug fixing being focus. Ships also supported the gameplay teams with medical gameplay adjustments. Some of the team then moved on to a related but unannounced ship. Interesting. RSI Perseus was prepared for its Laud Zero Gate review with an additional lighting and detail passes being done across both interior and exterior. So it is not in its gate review for Laud Zero. That's, I think, the last stage before final art. So I could see the Perseus being released in October, but it could also be released in November too. I wouldn't be surprised if we got the Paladin and the Perseus in November. It's kind of a weird combo. 2 gunships. And finally, the Drake Kraken's pre-production phase continued too. Community. Throughout August, the community team continued to capture community sentiment, tracks feedback, and relay it to development teams, ensuring that player input continues to inform future updates. The team also carried on with their evergreen publishing tasks, including This Week in Star Citizen, the Roadmap Update, and the Roundup, Arena Commander Schedule Update, and monthly reports like this one. Alongside this, the team delivered a steady flow of content and communication across channels, highlighting important beats and spotlighting community-driven moments. This included preparing messaging for development updates and amplifying announcements, supporting player-organized events, both online and in real life, and keeping the community connected. A primary focus last month involved ongoing work on upcoming improvements to Spectrum and other web tools. The team collaborated closely with colleagues in Montreal to visit the suite of applications available on the website, ensuring they remain effective, intuitive, and aligned with player needs. Further, the company team supported the Ship Showdown 2955, which began with creative submissions, rallying behind the players' favorite ships. A dedicated contest was also hosted during this phase. The community once again exceeded expectations with their creativity, and the team showcased the top submissions in the battle as the battle transitioned to live voting in head-to-head matchups. The live showdown commenced with announcement of the top 16 vehicles. The team celebrated each phase of the competition through 8 and Free Fly, the final 4, and ultimately announced the RSI Polaris as the Ship Showdown champion. Community also supported the release of Alpha 4.3 Dark Territory, including publishing the FAQ on the sprawling new Onyx facilities. The patch also marked the flyable release of the Kruger L21 Wolf, which was accompanied by a comprehensive Q&A. Preparation for CitizenCon Direct 2955, scheduled on October 11th, 2025, is well underway. As part of the lead-up, the team kicked off a machinima-style video contest that resulted in many creative submissions, with the top videos being set to showcase during the event. Key members of CIG staff will also be attending CitizenCon Direct watch parties across North America and Europe to experience events live with the community. I will be emceeing one of those events here in Austin, Texas, with myself and Solus of the Beyond the Verse podcast are the ones who are hosting it, and it is being hosted by effectively the entirety of the community of the Texas Bar Citizen community. So it'll be here in Pinballs here in Austin, Texas. So if you want to join us, it is going to cost you about like $10, $5 to $10 for a ticket. It just helps us pay for a lot of those things. And it's going to be an all-day event. We're going to be doing a bunch of other stuff, including the watch, but we'll be doing some lead-ups and keeping you entertained and stuff like that. Do these lives stay up for rewatch? They do. In fact, this is being recorded right now, which will be up as a separate video after the fact as well, so you can go watch that. Finally, the Bar Citizen World Tour continued with 2 stops in August, Gamescom in Cologne, Germany, and PAX West in Seattle, Washington. Yeah. It's there. Let's see if I can find CIG staff. Probably just taking the picture. Core gameplay. Throughout August, the core gameplay teams were heavily involved in Alpha 4.3 release, though they also made a significant progress across many large gameplay systems. The team's focus continued on freight elevators, with further fixes to the issues that put them in an unstable state, as well as improvements to the debug tooling. They continued to look into a large range of other widely reported issues, such as unrelated medical beacons and physics exploits. Improvements to medical ship functionality are in progress, including the addition of MedGel, which will be required to allow respawning. This will further differentiate the utility of various medical vehicles in game. These improvements are also prompted some general improvements to the respawn flow. The devs are working to close out the functionality required to support new creatures' unique behaviors and attack moves. The engineering screen was then updated to show the rate of heat change for components and fixed various bugs. For item recovery, the team added the ability to disable components for ships that have been claimed. Additionally, items will now display timer until they become bricked, after they've claimed by the original owner. This is also displayed in the to the player as part of a notification when an item is bricked and a player attempts to use it. For those of you who don't know, that is item recovery version 1, I believe, or version 2. It's the next step. And when it comes online, the big thing to remember is that it will also include the removal of the backspace function. You will no longer be able to use the backspace express wherever you want to go. You will be stuck. So that's one of the reasons why they've been trying to also experiment with bringing you back to where you last were. It's why they have you spawn in the hangar if you're at a ground location. It's kind of an attempt for them to do that. So far, it seems to still be working. So they're gonna start making it so that where you log out, you log back in, even if you didn't log out in a bed, because they want to start doing that. Okay, for crafting, the team implemented an offline version of the blueprint service, which is used as a stand-in to support the player-bound blueprint library until the actual service starts development. They also finished the first playable prototype of crafting in a multiplayer environment. Sounds like crafting is still very long away if they're doing just prototypes, so maybe 6 to 9 months. 6 to 9. Possibly 12 months. So crafting is a very long ways away. For control surfaces, improvements to the aerodynamic simulation were implemented, which should address jittering observed at low frame rates. Support for G-limiter was added to the new atmospheric flight mode, and NPCs now fly using control surfaces when in atmosphere. Internally, the team integrated the necessary work from Squadron 42 to conduct an internal playtest with various changes. These, in turn, prompted additional tuning improvements and bug fixes. IFCS saw further support work for Maelstrom. Destroyed parts will now reduce thrust effectiveness, which also addresses a common exploit where non-critical ship parts are destroyed to improve acceleration. This also helps design in better defining when a ship is considered inoperable, even when not fully destroyed. Cockpit dashboards will now support the ability to physically animate and vibrate based off of various factors. Oh my, CIG. Oh my, vibrate? Be careful. Oh, that's a little dangerous there. Adding another level of fidelity and realism. You can say that again. Examples of triggers include spaceships shooting their weapons or maneuvering at high angles of attack. For quantum travel, the team worked on various bug fixes and polish tasks, such as NPCs not being able to perform solo jumps. Quantum interdiction saw further improvements to address reliability of the system, especially in situations where the new quantum interdiction fields appear disappear after the jump has been initiated. Interdicted ships will also now have markers on them to make them more obvious to players who are performing the interdiction. Turret weapons are now prevented from firing when aimed at the host vehicle. This will reduce the need for complex turret angle maps, which have caused turrets to aim up and down erratically as players rotated around. For radar and scanning, the team worked on various improvements and polish tasks, such as improved UI for information about targets and better polishing for the scan information for very large targets. So it seems like we're seeing radar and scanning and engineering are closer to release, with crafting a far distance away. Transport also made good progress towards feature parity with the legacy transit system. This included bringing it to parity with the current behaviors, for instance hangars, scripting support for design, and also making it necessary preparations for dynamic server meshing. That's another mention of dynamic server meshing, which means they're wrapping it up. Part of this initiative involves moving away from interpolated movement to utilize the physics system. which saw a first pass implementation. Oh, okay. Now, before we go on, I do think it's important to notice this. I know there are leaks that talk about Nix and in terms of like information about Nix and various new organizations which have been mentioned, which is fine, but it's also important to remember that these are in lore narratives. That indicates where they would like to go in the near future. It does not indicate where they are going. So I still believe that dynamic server meshing is one of those things that's required for them to X out. Understand, dynamic, right now, the servers as they function, I think there are 10 servers per shard, and there's a total of 600 players per shard. That means that the total number of players per server is less if you spread it out evenly than there would be before server meshing. So it is more expensive for CIG to host servers now, the way they do, than it was for 3.0. And almost certainly they want to increase the number of players per shard, because they want to eventually have a North American shard, a European shard, an Asian shard, and an Oceania shard. Like, as everyone is in their shards. That's a ways away, but that's going to require server meshing, dynamic server meshing. And if they want to bring Nix into the game, they likely don't want to have to add more servers. They'd likely just want to keep the same number of servers they have now and increase the player cap as they go around. And so dynamic server meshing will allow for the similar performance with increased players while you have an increased player space. Because you should definitely want more players in the game if you have an increased player space. So we often see dynamic server meshing mentioned around topics about Nix, like instancing and so on. So I wouldn't be surprised if Nix is reliant on DSM, at least the first version of DSM, to come out. And yes, for people who are saying how long that's going to be, a lot sooner than you think. Probably within the next 12 months, if not sooner. The inventory rework is progressing well too, with the team implementing proximity looting, which will allow players to loot from multiple nearby inventory containers simultaneously. The new UI has also had filters and search implemented. Yep, there it is. See, we already saw this before in sort of like the plan. We see the timers and all that kind of stuff. An upcoming event was given additional support to improve existing mission archetypes and better support mission availability scaling. Economy. Last month, Economy team progressed with a new iteration of the economy based on the data they recently gathered. They're currently looking into changes to the buy and sell prices of FPS weapons, armor, and consumables. They're also updating profit margins for salvage vehicles, including components, and the effort versus reward algorithm. This is being done as part of an ongoing initiative to ensure crafting is profitable, revitalize the salvage of the vehicle components, and prevent exploits. Mission design. The mission team worked hard towards the release of Alpha 4.3, including the new ASD Onyx facilities. They also continued their initiative to improve the mission generation system to help ease the current pain points that affect both the mission team and players. This work is ongoing, but it is very exciting already. Missions team. Devs also continued their work to bring existing missions back to older locations, which will expand the pool of available locations for players and bring back various interesting encounters. That's good. This one is the big one is that they're planning on having so that you go to an area and you generate a mission when you're in an area that wants to generate the mission. Narrative. With the release of ASD's Onyx facilities, the narrative team turned their focus to polishing the next round of content that players will discover there. The team also wrote and captured several new mission characters that will be making their debut later this year, as they continue to focus on improving storytelling across Star Citizen. This month's performance capture session also saw the return of an already released character to pick up some additional lines. It's probably the one we saw earlier, head of the Frontier Fighters. While not yet captured, Narrative began writing new scripts for NPCs to help flesh out the lore of specific areas in the game. The hope is that they will continue to expand the collection of conversations that players can overhear across the verse. The team also continued to work on developing a new hostile faction that will be making its debut in a later patch, establishing its unique voice and supporting the branding and character art teams. This possibly could be the Broken Blades, which were referenced in a leak recently. Last month, the team also worked with design on updating the text of a few older contracts to align with improved gameplay flows, as well as tutorial missions that will help players understand new gameplay mechanics being introduced in a future patch. Engineering, maybe? The team additionally crafted a new fiction piece for this month's subscriber Jump Point magazine that expands upon the current happenings of the Empire, which we read earlier today in this video. So if you want to watch that, it'll be right up there. You can click that link and watch the whole episode. Online technology. This is the big one. Yeah, it is big. In August, the online services team collaborated with QA Test to show up to the Stow Context API. Item imprint version 1 development continued as expected. With the blueprint library development done, the service side related API development began. Online technology also started the discovery phase for the instancing feature. The team is currently working on making inventory API only accept calls if they affect a specific inventory ID. This is being done ahead of the Entity Graph global database sharding. So they're going to now shard the global database, which is interesting. So that means that the blueprint library is done, but it isn't fully integrated. They talked about that earlier, where they had the blueprint prototypes done, but they haven't fully rolled it out, which is required for crafting. Regarding the lazy inventory creation project, that's a really interesting name for it. The team worked on updating calls that could handle it and change the API accordingly. Essentially, the team wants inventories that can be created if needed on certain calls. As usual, the online service team worked on various bug fixes and improvements, including items for the mission system and for trace analytics. Meanwhile, live tools continue to enhance their internal support tool. These improvements will help our support staff monitor activity with the tool more effectively, ensuring fair play and better experiences for everyone. Live Tools team. The team also kicked off the discovery and early design of a new entitlement service within the Hex Knock Entitlements module. This service will support item recovery workflows by tracking entitlement history, status, and source, making it easier to resolve issues quickly and accurately. Live Tools also began restructuring error reporting system. This upgrade aims to significantly boost the speed and volume of crash processing. As part of this, they're migrating to new framework that's more scalable and easier to maintain. Finally, in August, the network team progressed with bug fixing and maintenance along with support for online service item imprinting tasks. They also focused on mapping out their path towards instancing and dynamic server meshing. It's important to note that of the last 4 monthly reports, 3 of them have mentioned either instancing, dynamic server meshing, or both. So it's been clear since at least June, they have been heavily involved in dynamic server meshing. And as I said earlier, don't expect 5 years for dynamic server meshing. It's going to be around fairly quickly, because all that DSM-1 is the current system we have now, only it has a trigger to change or increase or decrease the location, like the size of a server. So if they have a server that's covering all of Hurston, and one area gets super high in terms of the number of players going there, that area will then get its own server, and another server will kind of expand out to cover the areas that that server used to cover. Because obviously there are more people there, so you need to have a dedicated server to that area. The problem about that automatic swapping, because it's still 10 servers, it's just sort of changing where the servers are actually covering. They're not spinning up or spinning down servers, it's just 10 servers. Is the process of changing the server boundary and how that will affect players. The actual process, though, is the same as what they've been doing for regular server meshing. It's just more of a what are the parameters that they set that to work. So it's not as complicated as it sounds. It's just more of a philosophical question and a technical question in terms of what they can do. Because right now they manually change the locations. This is more of a non-manual change, but dynamic change without a manual input, or possibly an input that can be done on the fly. Because I do believe that the only way they can change the boundaries of what servers are covering where is by taking the servers down and then bringing them back up. So this will allow it for more easier changing. It should also allow for increased player cap. So R&D. In August, the R&D's team focus remained on analyzing performance and optimizing the engine and game code. That has been the same for practically the entire year. R&D has been just focused on that. VFX. Multiple locations, props, and gameplay elements integral to the entire Alpha 4343 flow required VFX support, which resulted in incredible visuals that the community have already given great feedback on. Support was given to the vehicle and creature teams. Yeah, there's amazing visuals for the Onyx facility. They're really good. All right. Someone's asking, first version of base building without crafting then? We're getting neither. They're going to come out at the same time next year. At the earliest. So, big things that stood out. Dynamic server meshing, instancing, both mentioned. The blueprint system is actively in development. It's going through its prototype phase in terms of going online, but the actual technology is done. They're doing new hostile factions. They're doing more voice lines. They're bringing back the Frontier Fighters as a villain again. Obviously, we know that the ASD facility's final swan call in 431. They also are doing some balancing for economy. Maelstrom mentions the control surfaces are being worked on and actually implemented with NPCs. Turret weapons are being updated. Just going through a lot of this stuff. Med gel, which we know because of the leaks, is in 431 and how medical regen is going to work. The Polaris won the ship showdown. We know that Kraken's still being worked on. Perseus is waiting for its step before final art. The Paladin is also in that sort of close to that stage. The L-21 released. The Ironclad is still in white box, but the Aurora and the Hammerhead are being redone. The Hull B is entering production, and the Medivac and triage for the Apollo are going to come out in the 431. Plus 3 new ships and an unannounced ship are currently in production. Probably going to be, some of them going to come out later this year, some of them much later. Animation, a lot of AI stuff as well, just new updates and fixes and trying to improve it overall. So that was the August monthly report from 2025. As always, I want to hear your thoughts down below on anything you heard. Do you think I am being optimistic by saying dynamic server meshing is coming a lot sooner than you think? Do you think I'm being pessimistic when I say I don't think Nyx is coming anytime soon, despite the fact that we know that Nyx is being worked on? I think I mentioned that earlier in the video, but I don't think so. I think that we're going to get a preview and then we're going to get an actual release next year. But let me know that and any of your other thoughts down below. And if you did enjoy this, hit the like button, subscribe for more options, for more videos like this, and hit the bell icon to be notified when these release and when I go live on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Thursday through the weekdays, I go live at 7 p.m. Central, so 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And on the weekends, I go live at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Love to have you join us live and join chat here, even though they'll tell you this is pre-recorded or there's trapped in my basement. Don't worry, neither are true. They're all just robots. I am also a robot, so, all hail our robot overlords. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out. And like I say every time, I hope to see you someday